Hi de nuevo. Welcome back to Careena's Adventures, where I help you write fiction that's not only exciting and engaging, but also uplifts your readers. So today I'm going to be talking about short stories and why it is beneficial for you to write one. So, first of all, in case you noticed that my backdrop is a little bit different arranged today, that's because I'm currently in the middle of videotaping a vlog about me cleaning up my writing space area of my room, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about why you should write a short story. Is there any good reason to write a short story when you're technically, a novelist or whatever? And there are definitely benefits to writing a short story. Now, actually, most of what I wrote when I was first learning to write were short stories because they are a really good place to start and to learn for a lot of different reasons. So I'm going to go over kind of 3 particular benefits of writing a short story. So the first one is it boosts your confidence. Writing a short story is, like it sounds, a shorter process usually than writing a novel. I can turn out a short story much faster than I can produce a novel. And especially if you are first learning to write stories, writing a short story is a really good idea because you're gonna produce that finished first draft a lot quicker than if you try to start with a novel. And having something done for the first time, having a story done for the first time is really good for your confidence as a writer. Getting that first story done is a lot of times one of the hardest things to do. So having a short story that you can say you've finished is really good for your confidence, which then can then boost you into your other projects. Also, because it's shorter, it can boost your confidence in the sense that I have found that short stories usually require a lot less editing than a novel because there are a lot less moving pieces to keep track of because it's a more concise story and there's a little bit less to the overarching plot. It's not as complicated as maybe a novel would be, maybe not quite as many moving pieces. So the second benefit is it sharpens your skills. Keeping track of all the different pieces of a novel can be very challenging, and that's part of why you generally need a lot of editing to a novel, at least in my experience, because inconsistencies or forgetting things is really easy to do when you're writing a novel. However, when you're writing a short story, generally the plot is going to be a lot simpler. There are going to be fewer moving pieces, like I mentioned, and so I have found that short stories, because of their simplicity, are a lot easier to keep track of. Because I'm having an easier time keeping track of the structure stuff, a short story is really good for working on your basic story skills. Your conflict, your 3 acts. Technically, even though a short story is short, you're still going to have that beginning, middle, and end to a short story, even if it's not going to be as drawn out and not quite going to have quite as many pieces to it as the beginning, middle, and end of a novel would have. It's also a really good time because you can work on things like character voice and character development. Something about writing a short story, because it is shorter, because it is more concise, because it is simpler, it is just a lot easier to focus on the more basic aspects of story creation and the different parts of a story than whenever you're writing a novel and trying to keep up with a lot more things going on. So it's just really great for honing your skills, and I have found it particularly beneficial for me to work on character development, staying in the perspective of only a couple characters. When I was first writing novels, especially kind of my main work in progress, I tended to kind of drop out and between which character was from the perspective of. Technically, I was writing in third person. I'm going to try not to make it too complicated, and this might actually make a good video in and of itself, but I would be focusing mainly on one character, and then I would say something, make an observation in the narrative that character wouldn't have any way of knowing. And so when you work on a short story, I just found that was a really good time, because it was more concise, to consciously be thinking, okay, we're gonna work specifically in this area on making sure that I'm staying from this character's perspective, even though it's in the third person. Now, if none of that made sense to you, don't worry. The different persons and which person you're looking at the perspective of can actually be kind of tricky, and it's not something that I feel like I kind of fully understood until more recently, so that might actually be an upcoming video at some point, so stay tuned for that. So yes, short stories, really good for honing your skills, working on particular things, because you're not having to juggle quite as many threads and plot devices and characters, and it's just simpler, good time to work on specific things that you want to work on in your skills and different aspects of the story. Lastly, if you are a person like me, you tend to think to yourself, what is this thing that I'm creating going to be able to contribute to my career or my business as a writer? I tend to think very in an entrepreneurial type of way, but short stories make great promotional material. Now, obviously, not everything you write is going to be awesome. I'm not guaranteeing that just because you write a short story, it's going to be like, you know, something that you're going to want to publish someday. But if you do write a short story and it does turn out pretty good, which, you know, like I said, short stories are usually pretty simple, so I don't find that they generally need as much editing. Short stories can make a really great promotional product. And not just for children, guys. I'm talking about, like, you know, adult and YA authors. I have obviously done more research in the YA industry, but I would imagine they could potentially be a good idea for adults too. I have seen that a lot of the indie authors that I follow will have where if you sign up for their newsletter, you get a free short story. And I have actually discovered that I liked or disliked certain authors by the short stories that I read from their newsletter. I think it's a great idea, and I'm planning to actually do this once I kind of someday get my writing business, my publishing, self-publishing out there to do this, because it is a really good way to let readers have a taste of what you're like as a writer, what your style is, kind of what the values are, what the characters are like, the way that you tell the story. And so if you write a short story and you're like, hey, this is pretty good, you might consider actually using it as an incentive piece for like a newsletter or something like that. Of course, you can also actually publish a short story. Short stories are great. They're not just for kids, guys. I like to read short stories. I really love to read them whenever they come with when you sign up with a newsletter, because then I can get a taste of what the author's like before I actually go and purchase one of their books. Hopefully you have found this helpful. I know that it kind of rambled all over the place just a little bit, but that's because there are many benefits to writing a short story, and some of them are hard to put into words because there's just something very satisfying I have found about writing a short story. You get confidence because you produce something that's usually pretty good in a pretty short amount of time. It sharpens your skills. So back whenever I was writing a short story that actually ended up becoming a novelette, even though I set out to write a short story, and I will link that vlog up in the cards, and in the description, is that I worked on, you know, character voice, you know, character arcs, whose perspective I was from, things like that. And then lastly, they make great promotional pieces, great incentives, and you might even just publish one to publish one, because you know what? Even young adults and adults like short stories. They are fun, guys, and they're fun to write. So if you have any other questions about writing short stories, please do let me know down in the comments. I really enjoy writing short stories. In fact, they were the bane of my existence for years whenever I was writing. In fact, I was writing short stories even before I kind of figured out how to write novels, because they are just that great training ground if you are not quite ready to write a novel and you want to learn how to write stories. They're just really fun, guys. So if you would like to write a short story, go for it. They're so much fun. You will learn so much, and I believe that it can really boost your confidence. So that's all for today. Adios, mis amigas, y Dios la bendiga. Have a blessed day, and stay tuned for that vlog about me cleaning up my room, because it was really a disaster. Bye.